pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming this evening. So we have
It's chilly in here.
yeah. Did you want the window open, you said?
Yeah, just open.
So do we have a motion to approve the agenda? So moved.
Second.
We got a second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Resolution for a closed meeting for negotiation strategy.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Ron. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Public comment? Okay. No word. Good. Consent items. Do we have a motion to approve the consent items?
So moved.
Motion by Mike Lee.
Second.
Second by Josh. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Discussion items. Meat and potatoes. School calendars.
These calendars, it's for you've already approved the 18-19 calendar last year, and so this is for the 19-20, so we can do planning out. There's a tighter one and a looser one, and then the teachers also have the option of tweaking one or the other and creating an option 3. And then once again, as the board, if you're looking at it and you want to weigh in on that, you also can.
Have the teachers put in theirs yet?
With the teacher, there's a loose one, and then I talked to them in the last year when they were creating it. They said it's more work than they thought it was going to be to try to get the 87 to balance out. So 87 first semester, 87 second semester, and get breaks to fall in natural places. And so they just asked me to
So
go.
they're not putting one in.
Patty has been asking about different tweaks, and they felt that was
Enough?
yeah.
Okay.
I heard a little bit of grief in my household from the kids that had such a short break this year. So I would suggest maybe can we get the opinion of at least the student council or ask the kids which they prefer. I know we asked the teachers, but I don't think we actually asked the kids.
Sure, I can send these to the student council.
Because I think was this year one where it was only a week. It was like 5 days or something, and it was really 5 or 6 days for Christmas break. It was really, really short. And
it was this year is the absolute shortest it could have been with the 1920. With Christmas and New Year's falling right in the middle of the week.
So basically we're off 2 weeks.
That's the loose one, we're off 2 weeks, and the tighter one, we would come back on January 2nd. And so it would be a week and a half, but a week and a half is really the shortest it can be. Because someone else said, well, why can we go on the 23rd and just go on a Monday? And I said, educationally, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
And then you have to look at, come back in on the 2nd.
That's one option, or staying off and coming back on the 6th is the other calendar.
yeah, I really think, my kids in particular, they're in so many things, and it's just, I think they just need that 2 week break. They need the Christmas break. It's just to kind of unplug from school and get a good break. And I do think they need a spring break too. So, but I think that this is a great opportunity for us to reach out to the kids, at least the student council, or they would make that would make the most sense, and just get their opinion between the 2 school calendars, which one they would prefer, and 3 reasons why they like it or something like that, and I think I'd love to hear their input.
If we could do that.
On these, I can't remember what the item description said. So this is the school calendar proposed. So we got option 1, option 2, and next meeting, one of these will be advanced or
Yes.
for approval. Okay, so the calendars do not have the curriculum or QComp added yet. Those are added later. Is this the same calendar then for MNBA as for?
Right, that's why the half-days in QComp have not been added. It's just where are the quarter breaks, basically.
And are things like graduation set on these calendars?
No,
or-
graduation is
so
not set.
is
That would
another
be,
thing that's not
right.
set.
And so once the calendar is approved, then the principals can work with their staff as far as figuring out the best place for those half-days, best place for QComp to go, and then that will come back for final approval.
And when does that happen? When do we final approve it? Like the year before, like a year from now? Because this is proposed for out to
1920. So if we, at the February 15th, if we pick one of the calendars as our boilerplate, and then we can either go the following meeting, that first meeting, March 1st, or March 15th, and do the approval of the calendar with the half-days and the QComp
Okay.
and make it finalized.
So
that
it's
we still
relatively
have
soon after.
relatively soon after, so we still have the calendar about 2 years before it hits, so they can start looking at different band trips, so they can look at where it falls as far as the DC trips, because you start planning those 2 years in advance, so it makes sense to have the calendars done.
And are they posted on the website
I was
so
just
the
gonna
parents
ask that.
can view them too, and do we tell the parents they're out there?
They're not, well, they should be, yeah, so the approved calendars, where are those posted? Once they're all approved,
The approved calendars are on the website.
okay.
Yeah.
And,
So if I go to the calendar,
Well, you won't
The
see them all.
tentative ones aren't
Tentative
there.
ones aren't
oh,
in
we
there
have the one
because
for next year, this is
Yeah.
2 years
Yeah,
out, so
this is
next year
couple years
should be
out.
on the website?
okay. So is there a place on SharePoint where as a board member, if I wanted to look back year to year to year to Mimi's question about, how long were the breaks, just to sort of compare, are all those calendars somewhere in SharePoint where we could go back and say,
They're all in the board packets.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
so search through the board packets. But there's no sort of one place where we're
looking at all.
looking all, yeah. So another opportunity would be, we've talked many times about inviting the community to weigh in on things when we're looking ahead at these kind of calendars, maybe at the fall parent-teacher conferences, this would be a place to have a survey to ask for their input in advance of when we're looking at a calendar. Ahead of time, just.
Yeah, that would actually, at the back to school, we could have the 2021 calendars there, because that's the one that we'll be approving next year.
Yeah, I don't know if you want, it's hard, a lot for them to, maybe the whole calendar is there, but
Saying,
just
I
things
think
like,
sometimes if you start-
where's the break, what do you, I don't know what to
Breaks I
ask.
could see, spring break and Christmas break type thing,
Yeah.
but, a lot of people you start, if you're gonna do 2021, then you're only gonna give it to a section of the people that are coming to the meetings, right? Because it's only gonna won't pertain to like me, my child won't be there,
Well, when we
But
have these
then-
conversations, it's things like, do the parents prefer a longer school year and a bigger break in the middle of the year, or a quicker end to the school year? What does the community want? It's just,
Those questions I think could be simple enough,
those are
say,
just for things like those that
the
always come up
Christmas break, and
for.
do you want them to be out early and spring break?
I
Those
think,
3 things, because some parents will say, I'd rather have my kids done in May, if they could. And some parents are gonna say, well, I want my kids, like Mimi said,
They're too busy.
Mimi may be the only family in the school system that wants to have 2 weeks off Christmas. But that doesn't mean we're gonna change it for the
No,
one
but
family.
you still got the input.
But you have the input, so you're gonna have I'm not opposed to asking, okay, Christmas break, spring break, end of the year.
Could you just specify it like that?
Try to
Not so much-
simplify.
Not the whole calendar.
Just-
Yes, not the
How
whole
would you like it
calendar,
ranked?
specifics, you know.
I look at it in terms of starting the 2nd of January, you only got Thursday and Friday, and being a teacher originally, you get the kids just started a little bit, and then you give them 2 days off, and on Monday, you're gonna kind of start up again. You'd be better off letting them have those 2 days off, and then you get a full week.
But then you're gonna kick the school year out a little bit.
Then you gotta,
I mean, it's
then
just-
you're gonna, then the school year, then you have to add on somewhere.
We
So-
could have a little.
I'm not opposed to
like,
that, I think that's a good idea.
survey that goes out in the announcements to the parents.
Well, don't we do, in a few months, maybe mid-quarter, don't we do parent-teacher conferences in the high school?
There's spring and fall. I mean, they're twice a year.
Well, they're set
right?
up differently at different times, I can't remember which, but we could just have a little table where people could look at it and give us some feedback or input, and we could do the same thing at the elementary, because at least then you're giving them the opportunity to speak up, and they're, in the school, and you would hit the.
They do need
parents.
to know that we're already set for the next 2 years, so their input is, so when they see nothing happen the next year, they say, why bother give you the
Right.
input? They have to know that it's,
We're
we're
not-
planning well in advance, but
And I'm on the school website, I only see 17, 18, so I don't know how to find the next one. But
have them up there yet.
yeah, I don't think next year's is.
So what do they need to do?
So
So anyway, I think,
with this, do you want them to have input with the 1920 calendar? If you want them to have input on the 1920 calendar, we definitely can put like a simple survey in the announcements that go home to every parent.
Yeah, I think
if it's simple enough to do it, you could put it out there and just, these are our two options we're looking at.
So why did this year fall to 1 week? Where
The
now
dates
Those
of
are where the holidays fall.
holiday dates.
It was either 1 week or 2 was sort of the decision, and
Because of
all the
Christmas
teachers
being
wanted
there.
to shorten.
Christmas being on
Yeah.
Monday or something.
See, Josh, you gotta remember, if you adjust it there, say you do 2 weeks, like Gina's talking, those extra 2 days,
Oh, yeah.
you have to make up somewhere.
Oh, I completely.
So, again, you're gonna have those people that wanna get out by June 5th. And I'm just using that as a date, I'm not saying that's the date. But then you're gonna, say we can't do that because we had to add these 2 days to the Christmas break. Now, they're gonna have to wait till June 8th to get out.
No, I completely follow you.
And some of the parents are gonna like, hold it, we already have, that's long enough. So,
It was one of the things that was brought up at the MSBA, one of the workshops I went to, that the PTA brought up. It's kind of a hot topic, and I guess they had made some changes in one of their schools, but there were some parents that were present and they understood the complexities of it. So and they were members of the PTA, and so one of the parents got upset. They said, "Hey, wait, you had representation. And you need to understand how confusing this is. And we were involved and we had to align all these things." So it really stopped. I'm not saying we're going to get pushback. There's not a huge difference between the two calendars. But I think by having some people involved, it really helps give perspective. I think it's a good thing.
I think if it's simple enough, say, like you said, send it out. But again, I think we should simplify it. And this is a calendar.
Do you want
I think,
extra
right,
Christmas
you
break
want it
or
here,
spring break
here, or, these dates.
or early out?
Because those are the three we're mainly talking about, is Christmas break, spring break, and the end of the year, correct?
And
Well,
If we do this-
even if you didn't specify it for what year, that way, like, Michael Lane's got a good point. They're gonna say, what's the point? But if you just get a poll of something to go off for future reference, that'd be great. Just have some numbers.
So a lot of, back years ago, there was never much of a spring break. There wasn't a spring break. You had you bookended Easter. You had one day off on Easter, on
Each side.
one side or the other. And more school districts have built in, this spring break. So
And
that,
some of them are 2 weeks even.
I know,
I've
some
seen
of them
more
are
2 weeks.
big, and I don't know how, I know how I feel about that, but it doesn't matter because I don't have kids.
Right.
So kids that are in school and the parents who are affected by that, we might find out, do people rather limit that spring break? go for the tighter option, or even tighter than that, get out, whatever. It's just getting that
Because their
feedback.
summer vacation may be more important than a spring vacation.
Exactly,
So,
Let's get a
because
survey.
either way, they have to be in school so many days a year.
that's
Right.
right.
So,
Yep.
can we send that out easy
Yep.
enough then, Pam?
She's on it.
It's done.
It's done.
Anybody else have anything on that? And then we'll talk more about it, look at it.
No, just as well, we're thinking as soon as we approve a calendar with the half days and graduation and everything, it should be put out on the website right away, once it's approved, so that people can.
Okay. Got that in?
So put on the website, put on for the teachers and also for
Yeah.
the parents.
Yeah, at least, I mean, we can find it in the board packets, but
Yeah, if you put it
once it's
out,
approved, it's the change, it's there, so.
it should be easy enough to put on the website.
Yep.
Calendar year this, calendar year that.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, you guys? Ron, Dean? Okay, moving along, technology committee report, that was this week.
And so I did the board discussion item, to say which, members, the whole district tech advisory committee was not there. The board asked for just the members that deal with the on-site. So those are the members that were there, along with the, two board members. You talked about the two goals and the discussion was about the fact that we need to just have one main goal. So the committee decided that the goal that they were going to keep for their real focus was going to be the Schoology implementation and timelines for that. And then, as a district technology committee, since we're just having the on-site people there, it was a good chance to start the conversation about devices, the Chromebooks that we have purchased. Everything wears out, and with technology, and when we're coming to end of life for the devices, are we going to continue with Chromebooks? Are we going to change the devices? And also our lease with the Apples for the teachers is going to end. And at the end of that lease, for $1, basically for $1, we have purchased all the Apple computers, the desktop models for the teachers, but then they're not under warranty anymore.
Most important.
And so there's not the support for them anymore. And so are we going to try to get those to limp along? And we have to really think about, are we going to be replacing those? If we're replacing those, what are we going to replace them with?
That's all part of our tech plan, right? Don't we have a document that lays all that?
We need to redo the tech plan this summer. And so that's this committee, the committee as a whole needs to work on the technology plan. Because that
We looked at it, I mean, when we were at this meetings up in Minneapolis, everybody I ever heard, they kept talking about, a few years back, it was all, let's get iPads. Now all I hear is Chromebooks, and that's what we always kind of stuck with. And I didn't hear anything different, I don't know if you guys did, I'm not really up on, if they're working, is that the way we want to continue? Is that, I'm sure that conversation is at the tech committee meeting. I don't know if that came up, or do we want to look at something else? Because we don't have the budget for it either way,
right.
and
And
this year we
there's
got
a lot of
some.
schools that are going with Chromebooks for their teachers.
Yeah, that's what I heard up in Minneapolis, that's why I was curious, is if we've reached out to other schools. I know, like I said, some of these schools, a couple of years ago, they spent, $1 million on iPads for all the kids, but then the following year, they didn't say anything about them, good, bad, or ugly. And I haven't heard. Michaeline, you're in the education world. What have you heard?
Well, I'm not in the K-12 world, but the discussion that we had in our tech committee was Becky Parabic had said that there were potentially some problems with the teachers having Chromebooks accessing things with Schoology, but then Joe said it might be that something's not turned on. So that needs to be figured out, because you don't wanna buy teachers
no,
a bunch
no.
of Chromebooks if they're not gonna work with our
Right.
learning management system.
Correct.
So those were just questions, good questions that were raised, and we talked about not using a keyboard for the younger grades, like kindergarten first, maybe second. You know, when can they get the digital manual dexterity to handle a keyboard? So that's where iPads probably have more of a place, if we're gonna use them in some way. That was part of our, I mean, there were no, it was just a conversation.
No,
So-
I'd be curious to see where that leads, because you're probably right with early childhood development. It seemed like in the past, years ago, when we had, kids with challenges, they were using the iPads.
And we still
Which
have
seems to
iPads
work
for
really
those
well
kids
for
with-
those kids.
Yep.
And that may still work with younger kids. That
We
may
don't
be
have,
better.
we don't consistently have iPads. We got, didn't Rick say there's Galaxy something or other, and there's some
Yeah.
of this, and there's some of this, and there's some of this, so is that okay? That's fine. If we should make it uniform, then that should be part of that device plan.
So you guys gonna have a meeting on
I-
what devices to go with?
Well, then we have to do the survey this spring and then use those survey results as that district technology committee to get back together. And
Chromebooks, I think, are cheaper than iPads.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But with the Schoology, it shouldn't matter the platform you're using to access Schoology.
I understand that, but our technologist said that there were problems getting things to work, so something might not have been turned on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or maybe an upgrade. That's all I'm saying is we
No,
gotta
no,
listen to
I-
those
yeah,
people
right.
at the table. So there shouldn't be a problem, but if there is a problem,
Let's find out.
Let's
Let's find out.
To-
Yeah, find out before we get into
Should be
it.
a small
Yeah.
change.
And we do, with working with Dependable Solutions, we also have the benefit of knowing what things have worked in other places and where there have been pitfalls. So we don't have to make other people's mistakes.
Now
which
with
is
that
good.
dependable solutions, I'm assuming, like our IT person here, and they talk, because granted, they may have other schools or other resources, people that they've used it with, that may not be pertain to our school knows, but you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
We're not, I don't wanna just rely on them, I'd like to just have our person have their input too, or our people, I should say. Because our online people use different systems, correct?
Correct.
We just wanna make sure it all works properly, because other schools aren't like ours.
No.
And, I'd rather listen to people, as Mike Lean would have said a minute ago, people in the trenches, find out what works for them, because I know, you get given tools, like Mimi works on a computer all day, and, if they just send her one in the mail and she gets it and goes, well, this isn't gonna work, it was a waste of money. Because they didn't call her and say, what would help for you, help you do your job better. So hopefully that is going out.
I have,
Go ahead.
one more thing on this before I turn it. So on the Chromebooks, when for several times now, we keep talking about this, Chromebooks and the end of life, which sounds really, really dire. A Chromebook at the end of its life. And I tried to do some research to understand what does that mean exactly. Do we need to get a defibrillator or,
Good.
and my understanding is that and I might be wrong, so I'm just asking maybe to check it out with our folks, is that end of life means that it's an old enough device that it's not supported.
Right.
That doesn't mean it doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't mean it can't keep working. It just means when it stops working, we don't have support for it. So the minute something says, well, that's end of life, doesn't mean we have to throw it in the trash necessarily. We
Right.
still have to have a replacement plan. All I'm saying, is that correct? Is that?
That's absolutely correct,
Okay.
and that's what I'm
So
bringing
that's
up.
different than.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Oh,
End of life doesn't mean dead.
right, which means no
It means
service.
they want you to buy a new one.
It does mean they want you to
They're,
buy a new
they're
one,
Like a cell
creating an
phone.
end date.
but then we need a replacement plan,
Right.
So
we could use it
So-
until it actually died, and then we just have a backup for that.
Right,
You-
and that's,
Because the stuff is not stored on the Chromebook, it's up there.
Right.
right,
So you're not losing any
Right.
important stuff.
it's all cloud-based.
Losing its capability of working.
Right, and it's the same thing with the teachers' apples. Just because the lease is done doesn't mean those computers will stop working. It doesn't mean that they're all going to just fall apart. It just means that
You don't have the support.
you don't have the support.
from Apple. That doesn't mean that if we had a tech person on site, that they
Right.
could troubleshoot occasionally.
Right, and Dependable would still troubleshoot, but then they would tell you that these are 4-year-old machines.
It's kind of like the expiration date on a can of beans.
That's right.
The day that the expiration date is done does not mean the beans are no good anymore.
That's
You gotta
right.
take them out the storage shelf.
Right.
Perfect.
Just wanted to
Good
understand.
example there, Ron. It's the best I can do. Yeah, and such short.
So what I was gonna say is that the important thing from this meeting is that we tasked this group with coming up with what their main thing was for technology utilization, and they came back and they said implementation of Schoology. And so I think this group is gonna meet a lot more frequently now, and I think Corinne sent out kind of the very, 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 very beginning of a plan, but there will be a detailed plan so that we can say, you know, next year in the Schoology implementation, you know, this is in scope, this isn't in scope, this is what we're gonna achieve. Halfway through the year or a quarter of the way through the year, are we on track? Halfway through the year, are we on track? Are we gonna meet our goal? You know, the implementation's gonna take so many years, and we'll be able to follow along and see, because we wanna make sure that it's successful. So I guess that's what we need is board buy-in to say, does the board agree that Schoology is so important that we're going to make it one of our top 4 goals and ensure success? That group felt that it was that important, so, and that's what's brought back to the board. And there'll be a lot of investment of time, a lot of teacher time, a lot of training time, we've already invested in the software, but there's just gonna be a lot of planning and a lot of time involved.
I know, as the teachers brought that up at the negotiation meeting. It's time.
So, but just that's the main thing I wanted to, and I think, you know, we said each group would talk about it, and so every 3 months then they come back again. So I would guess in 3 months we'd have a detailed implementation plan for, you know, however many years it is and what would happen. So I would kind of task that group with that goal.
So we were part of the ad hoc committee that gets this quarterly update or whatever, but we're also on the district tech committee, which meets to make that plan or to have those conversations. Are we not? Are we?
The district tech advisory committee is charged with doing that 2-year plan, the whole tech plan for online, on-site, whole district. And the district tech advisory committee also has the people from the online world on it. And so that's when we're doing that overall plan, it's got to encompass everything in the district. And that's why with this one, it's just the ad hoc with just the on-site component. Because
They don't need Schoology.
no, they don't need Schoology.
Well, Schoology is or is not a task for the district tech committee, or is it? So are we? I'm confused on who's meeting to discuss this.
I
and
think
what
it's the whole
meetings.
committee, but I think that the online school members might drop if they're only online school, but maybe they can talk about how their system works and what they've seen as success and help us set up Schoology or something like that. So I would argue they can provide value as well. I don't know how many online.
Yeah, I look back to see what the
People-
makeup of this is the on-site.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, so I pulled out the tech plan, and that doesn't really, I guess it does, I don't have it with me, but I looked at the tech plan too, that's the makeup of the,
The tech plan has the district IT, the district tech integration as the superintendent, every principal, representatives from each school on site and each of the different schools online, so the K-5, the
Okay.
6, 8, 9, 12.
Even with that, the online is gonna have less involved. I mean, their computers are kind of already.
Except with the district tech plan, you're also looking at what training people want and what things that they would like to learn about so they can implement in their classes, like podcasts and different trainings in that vein. And so when we do the survey, and we'll have to do the survey, I think we typically do that at the end of February, of all exchange users. So we get a view of what technology needs they feel they would like to have as far as training, what things they feel they're lacking as far as the school, so that we can start building a plan that addresses those needs.
So our board members, because we decided at some point, the end of 2016, to include board members on that committee. But we met once or twice in the spring, and not with regards to a survey. And so are we part of that committee that will be meeting to develop this survey and make that plan? Are we? Board
Well, as
members?
a board, you asked to be on the committee, so no, yes, you are.
Okay,
But it's not a board committee.
I understand that. No, I understand that. So, I did bring the plan, but it has a number of, it says community stakeholders are part of that too, is that right? Of the District Tech Advisory Committee?
We tried to get community,
It's hard.
and so we had people doing double duty as far as, we tried to take the teachers or staff members that actually lived in the community.
So was there a survey done last year, or has it probably not been done?
That one sunsets in 18, so the survey would have been done in 15.
Okay.
And yes, there was a survey done in 15.
This is the survey will be reissued annually.
Oh,
So,
we didn't annually because
Do that.
the plan is a
okay.
3-year plan.
Okay, anything else on the technology committee report? Appreciate you guys being part of that. Sounds like you went well. Looks like
It was a good conversation. I think we have a lot of questions that need to be figured out, but we're on the rails.
Well, I just appreciate you coming into the board, because we're hearing, it's nice to be updated on what's happening, so.
I think the group's gonna be meeting a lot more frequently, maybe in the next month or two, you think? To get working through some of the stuff. We have a lot of stuff to do.
So that's not, so the group is not us.
I think we're part of the group, the district technology.
That was my question.
Are we?
So which do you want
The site
everyone?
Well, no, the site group who's making these decisions on making the plan, on developing the
The
management of the
Schoology
process.
Right.
You want the group to get together on the Schoology implementation
Right?
plan?
I mean, who's gonna write the plan? I mean.
Well, I think
who's
the
gonna
other
take it?
people would be taking the plan, putting the plan together, and then bringing it back to the complete group, and this is what we kind of broke down, and
It's a pretty small, I mean, unless there were a lot of people that weren't there, it wasn't a huge group. Maybe
No, I think we were all.
I mean, is that kind of how you guys, we talked about it being?
Oh, yeah, you mean like the district group, yeah, but I think the whole district group needs to get together. The district technology committee needs to get together to come up with the implementation plan
Of Schoology?
No, but that's where we're saying the district
teachers need to be part of
No.
that.
Okay, so they maybe sit out that part, but they might be able to provide some input though too, so. But there are other things they need to be their plans.
Mhm.
You can't implement without a plan, and we need the plan.
Well, and that
Oh,
small ad hoc part of the committee probably needs to meet to
Come up with
the
that.
plan.
Okay, I think that's what Amy's saying. Are we gonna
That-
meet to
yeah.
develop the plan?
Because you already have some rough
Yeah,
draft stuff, so
Right.
now you need to sit down and kind of fine tune it, and then hand it out.
So I don't know who the head person for that committee is, but we should be meeting more frequently, not me.
I think it needs to be Corinne, because this is, I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately,
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
you're responsible for Schoology implementation, right?
Yeah.
So I think it should, that's the right choice.
We good now?
Sure.
Thank you, everybody. Site goal report.
the principals put together with each of their goals for the world's best workforce, and they're the staff development goals. What their goal is for this particular year to get to the achievement in 2021, which was our 5-year plan. So the goal for MNVA, they've got their STEAM goal, and it's basically a plan for making sure that as kids enroll and register for their classes, they are ready for some of those STEAM things they want to get into. And they're also, they realize that their plan has to include future expansion course offerings in the STEAM focus. And so you've got each of the different goals, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then 7 and 8 all deal with the statute requirements in the world's best workforce. So that's all the statute requirements. One thing, the graduation rate, number 8, is very important, and notice it's not on track to meet the goal. We need to, with the ESSA, get up to 65% grad rate. And they're working on changing their practices and having kids get the credits, but when they come into us and fail classes, or they come into us behind, it's just not going to happen. So we know with the ESSA that we're not going to hit the grad rate that we need.
So they're looking at doing something to sway that? I mean, I know we've talked about these kids that come in that aren't where they're supposed to be when they come in.
We can't.
I'm not saying turn them down, but I mean, it's just, I wish somehow you could explain to the state that, you know, this person that you think should be in 10th grade really is only an 8th grader capability. I mean, I'm not trying
And
to.
as soon as that student has enrolled in any school in 9th grade, that MARS number is tied to a graduation cohort.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter if that kid comes to us 3 years after the fact with only 1 credit. We have to put that child as a senior because that's where the MARS is. The MARS says that child.
Is there a conversation on it? We've talked about this. We've talked about this for 10 years, it seems like. You know, that these kids.
Graduation cohorts, your graduation cohort is decided on your first day of 9th grade. Because on that first day of 9th grade, then you are locked into, in 4 years, that's the group with which you're supposed to graduate.
So that led to the conversation about how can we find more support for MNVA to help accelerate the progress of those students to reach their cohort. And that's where we have trouble finding funding and the freedom or the ability to make that happen.
And we are not a credit recovery school. Our classes are not credit recovery classes.
And so what would it take to do that? That would be another approach to trying to address that.
That would be another approach.
So what would that involve?
Insight Minnesota is more of the credit recovery, and but
Do we have an entity in our school like that?
They take the clientele at Insight that needs the credit recovery.
But if we're getting those clientele, you know, we can't turn them away. Is there a way of taking an Insight type scenario and putting that in our system and taking those kids and moving them to that?
Recovery? Who gets to get? How do they get that designation?
Right, that's good.
How do they decide what?
Those are the courses that that's the courses that they have gotten from K-12.
So
We could also have but
maybe it'd be like having an alternative, that type of school as part of our K-12 program, where you have this kid that comes in 9th grade or 10th grade that's identified
So
behind.
it's actually a curriculum.
yeah, it's a different curriculum. And the other thing is our focus has been trying to get to that college-bound learner program in K-5, and we're really trying to carve out that niche. So if the board said, no, you need to offer credit recovery, it's totally changing
You
what
can't
the
do both,
focus.
is what you're telling me? You can't focus on both, have that and that? The reason I'm asking, because either way, we're gonna end up with those kids that need recovery. So you either get a kid that's in 10th grade, that's at an 8th grade level, or a 9th, you know what I mean? And then we're stuck with them, and then the graduation never gets to where we want it to be.
The credit
And then-
recovery schools have graduation rates lower than that.
Yeah, but then.
Okay, so you're saying then that credit recovery is not a way to address number 8?
What I'm saying is if we,
Exactly, yeah.
what I'm saying is if we start offering and billing ourselves as a credit recovery school, we will attract
No, I'm not
the
saying that. I'm
clientele.
not saying that, Corinne. What I'm trying to say is, how do we get the kids to where they need to be with what we have? And if we,
Or what do we need to get to
Or-
help the kids get to, I mean, that,
or as a school board, we have to accept that we're never gonna be above 60% in the MNBA program and just let it go.
About 39%.
Or 39, whatever the percentage is, we're never gonna get to it. Because we can't do both. In my mind, you
and then
can't.
how's that gonna be with ESSA? I mean, what's that mean for us for funding? I
Yeah.
mean, that's an important thing for
Oh, it
everyone to
is.
think about.
Well, yeah, and that's why I'm saying is, we've talked about trying to get these kids where they need to go. And how do we get them there? And at the same time, you're saying, we can't. It's just not gonna happen with what we have.
Is there a possibility of that estimated graduation date changing, that rule that's in place? Will that be up for discussion at some level?
That ESSA just got approved by the federal, in February, they're going to, issue the graduation rates with their new recalculation factor. And that is that unless a student is with you for, or the easiest way to word this, a student has to be with a school for at least a full semester for that student to be tied to your graduation rate. So for those seniors that come in, and let's say they enroll in September because they're gonna make it here now because they've biffed every place else, but now they're gonna do it. And they enroll with us in September at MNVA, and by by December, they're crashing and burning, and they're gone. And then that won't count against us. And
Which is a good thing.
right,
So that'll move the bar.
That should
move this
move
much.
our up.
I'm not sure how much it'll move the bar. I
Wait,
really,
You have a
I
whole
am not,
semester
I
to get
am,
them up to speed.
They obviously felt the semester was the correct length to judge that by then?
the State Department, I was campaigning for a year.
Right, yeah.
I said they needed to be with us a full year,
That makes
and,
That would make more
um,
sense in a semester, but
and we couldn't, that one,
I just don't think.
the lobbyist from MREA, Fred Nolan, who kind of fought for that change, listened, but he said they're not gonna give us a year. And so at that point, I was,
And what's their reasoning?
Yeah. Why do they prefer a semester? Shorter.
because the city schools don't wanna get stuck either. They were very happy to say, why don't you enroll in an online program, knowing that as the last, it was
Kicking the
the
can
hot
down the
potato
road.
factor. And so if you got them to enroll in an online program, guess what, that
Get off the
online
books.
programs got stuck holding the hot potato when the kid flaked.
But at the end of the day, it's about getting kids educated.
Right,
And what frustrates me is they're basically not offering that opportunity for these kids in any way, shape, or form.
except you also have to understand, we're offering the opportunity, but we can't do it for the kids either.
No, I know we can,
And the
but
kids, and we need to have the kids who are willing to actually put forth the
apply,
effort.
correct?
Mhm.
But what's happening is, just like you said a minute ago, you have this kid that becomes a hot potato, nobody wants to take a chance on the kid.
Well, you don't
We've
have any
always
choice.
taken
Because you don't have a choice. You know, and it's just not, I don't know, I don't think it's the right way to do it, but.
But it is our reality.
Yeah, I know. So, okay, anyway, we beat that one up. Anybody have any questions on this?
Punch that one down.
Guys?
Just like one of Ron's loaves of bread.
Yeah.
It'll rise again.
Anything else you want to see on this?
Well, look through it, if they have any questions on those.
Is Angela gonna come and speak again on mine?
Yes.
When she's scheduled again?
I didn't have a chance to look,
I was just
because
curious.
I was asked at the online meeting
Okay.
when that
She
was
said
scheduled to.
in the next couple of months.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
We try to make sure she's not gonna travel during the
Bad weather.
bad weather.
So we should be Rick and Todd every week then, well, every month, then during this time of year. Rick doesn't like to drive that far during bad weather. Okay, anything else on that? No? Old business, items for discussion approval, teachers master agreement?
The teachers did vote to ratify the contract, as did, and before they could vote on it, River Valley Association, the overarching union voted on it, and so now the ball is in your court, and once you approve it, then we can sign the entire contract. What I have here is the contract language that has been approved, the contract changes that have been approved with the strike through and the underlining. And then the salary augmentation is 2.5% year one and year two. And that's the way the salaries are set up. The Appendix B is set up as percents, so all extracurriculars are raised also by 2.5%.
Is there any, so the appendix that you're on there is for the coaches, it says assistants will be hired when the number reaches 15 and there's a request, but for speech and play, it's the other way around. It's the first criteria is that the director has to ask for it, and then you have to, it's just an inconsistency in the language. It doesn't, I'm not suggesting it be changed, it just is, I don't know if, it's like a math thing.
Right.
You have to meet the first condition before you meet the second, and doesn't.
No, you have to meet both. So it doesn't matter which order you meet them in.
Sometimes it matters in math.
It doesn't matter here. Both have to happen. And
Okay.
it doesn't have to happen in any sequence.
Okay.
And the main reason for that is that the varsity coach, before the varsity coach didn't need to request the assistant, and so
So that would be
sometimes there were assistants hired and the varsity coach was saying, I don't want an assistant.
Okay.
And people would be coming in saying, oh no, it's in the contract, you have to have this. And the varsity coach was not happy about it, and they said, hold on a second, why does a
We wanted to
speech
have
person
the
get to,
option.
yeah,
I
why does a speech
understand, it's
person
just
get
that
to?
I don't
Yeah.
have, just the way it was parsed.
So, are
Make
we,
I'll make a motion that we approve the teacher's master agreement.
okay, have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ron, discussion.
I'm assuming that my negotiators are making that recommendation.
You bet.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Ron.
And I would ask if this is voted through, that we could get a contract, get a copy of the entire contract when it's,
When it's all, yes, when it's all,
you'll send it out to us or let us know where to.
Yep.
Okay.
Any questions? Jeff? You? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I'd like to note that I abstained from that because I think it's coaches too.
Mhm. Got that? Yeah.
I do now, thank you.
Okay, new business. Items for discussion. Okay, policies for first reading. Michaeline, you wanna say anything on that? before
I
we
didn't
read them all
notice,
over?
I didn't read them, I didn't notice too many changes unless, did 403 have any changes? The discipline one?
no,
I don't think so.
no.
I read through the other ones, all of a sudden I realized 403 is kind of a big one. and I-
405 had some, 405 had,
We're kind of bound
think.
by statute for those
and it's
things.
just, the principals know which ones are there. Is that the one that did the veterans?
No, it's not that one.
Okay,
There
no.
were many changes.
So there was a lot of changes, is what you're saying,
No,
Mike?
well,
No.
so read them over.
Read them over,
Read 'em
see,
over.
have any questions, concerns?
And the principals have already been told which ones are slated for approval
Okay,
at the next meeting.
if anything comes up, let Michaeline know.
No, let Ron know, it's his turn.
Let Ron know. Okay, rest of the year, Ron's in charge. Announcements. Important events, January 23rd to the 26th.
With paraprofessional.
Oh, with paraprofessional recognition?
And what was done?
Yeah.
There were, there was cake, there, were little signs,
Thank you.
thanking them.
Thank you.
And it was the, decree from Mark Dayton, Governor Dayton, came out the day after the last meeting, so I didn't have that for you guys to act on, so it was just a timing factor.
Well, we appreciate what they do,
Yes.
We definitely do.
so.
And then for the,
February 10th, the breakfast.
I do have the school van, and,
Someone
That's-
else is driving.
so I will drive. What time does that breakfast start?
And
Like 9 o'clock, 8:30?
Oh, I think it's like 8, isn't it?
8:30, 9 o'clock,
Yeah, I
8:30.
kind of thought we would, you'd have to leave here
11,
about
it's over.
7. I think it's 8:30.
8:30,
So if we leave it,
8:30
we'll leave
to
at
11.
7
7?
by the district entrance,
I'm not going.
and that's next
You're
Saturday.
not going now, because it's at 7?
No,
Oh.
I got
So-
Mardi Gras. That's
Oh.
that day. Celebration.
Okay, so everybody that's going, 7 o'clock out here.
How many are going?
I think
I'm planning.
Michaeline, I was planning on going.
Ron
Ron.
in town.
And so it's just 4 of us? Okay. It was, Gary has sometimes liked to go to that one.
I don't have his name down this time.
Okay.
I did not register.
Okay. Meeting and committee updates. We talked about the one you guys had, technology one, you had an online one.
Yeah,
This
online
evening.
went really well. We talked about the budget today. It was nice. I mean, we have 2 new members, so we kind of took a step back. And so we were reviewing cohorts, but we're going to review it again in our next meeting. We're going to meet again in 2 weeks because we wanted more information. Josh was asking some great questions about why kids leave, and it's been a while since we've reviewed some of that. So we're going to review reasons why they withdraw, some of the cohorts and retention rates with those. We're trying to decide if we're going to keep the November cohort or not. So we're going to analyze some more data and have some more discussion on that. And I guess we talked just a little bit about success with staffing that they've had. And then we're also going to talk next time, and I have in my notes, which, that we're gonna talk about the class offerings
and class size minimums, and then we're gonna talk about the math and reading remediation changes that were made and just get an update on how those are going. So we have kind of a full agenda for 2 weeks from now.
Good. Go good. That was your first one, how'd you like?
And Cody mentioned that we should maybe go out to DC and YouTube it out there, so would you suggest that or not, or is it worth?
No, we don't wanna go again, I mean, we
No,
appreciate the
that's
offer.
new ones.
Was it worth your time?
That's what we want.
I don't know if he's inviting you.
No, it is. Everybody's, full board.
I mean, it was nice to kind of get a clear understanding on how the whole operation works, and I'm sure it's changed since we were there. I mean, some of that stuff I thought was pretty neat, the way they try to develop new things. That one lady, I can't think of her name that was in that does some of the development on different curriculums that they're looking at.
Noreen, Sasha,
She was back, I don't know,
Allison?
I can picture her back in that area, but I think they were talking about new grade school stuff.
Anita?
Maybe. It was grade school applied.
Anita.
Yeah. What do you think, Ron? Do you think it was worth it?
Well, I think it's impressive to meet some of the people that have developed these things and are working on it. They're definitely a smart bunch there.
And then you get to meet the people that answer the phones and just talk to them a little bit.
Kind of see how the operation works from that.
So, we'll talk about that next time. Talk about dates.
The district
You can
did,
drive them out there, right?
Yeah.
District van.
School van?
the district advisory council met too. Are you gonna report on that or no?
Go ahead.
The district advisory council met to kind of review goals and where we were, but then also to try to start coming up with the relevant course offerings and curriculum item to come up with one thing in particular, and we're gonna need to meet again to.
And because that committee's focus is on, they're the World's Best Workforce Committee and the Staff Development Committee. And so then it was, those goals are the goals of the committee. And Mimi wants to have one
Not
overarching. What?
Not 30?
Yeah, she wants to have just one goal, and the committee still has to focus on the World's Best Workforce goals. But if there's one other, what we talked about is there the one goal that you want, kind of the goal that all these World's Best Workforce goals feeds into, and
I think it's gonna be STEAM goal. I mean, I was thinking maybe it's a strategy under there. I mean, but I think there's gonna be something that we can, like an implementation of something that we can measure and we know what's gonna happen. It's not just gonna be like, do more STEAM things. It's gonna be, something, and Todd, maybe he's watching. Todd always has these ideas, and we kind of hear about them after the fact sometime. And so I'm trying to get, some of those guys to, what's on your wish list? What would you like to see? And don't worry about thinking big. And we could always bring it to the board, and the board could say no.
Yeah.
Or it could just be analysis of it. What would it cost to do X, Y, Z? And that could be the whole first portion of it. So I'm trying to, but it'll be STEAM related. I think that's pretty set, because the very first goal in the World's Best Workforce
is STEAM related.
Yeah, it says it's developing curriculum for STEAM. So I think it's gonna tie into that, but it's gonna be something that we can implement and measure, an initiative of some sort.
And how does that work for MNBA?
They are implementing it. They have some of theirs.
But I mean, I think with this being a district umbrella, you kind of have to look at how it's happening in both places, right? I mean,
there were MNBA people in the room, but we never really got to the point where we kind of decided on like this particular thing and thought about how it would apply to the online school. So,
but I mean, I think if you're making a district goal, it
needs to incorporate their thoughts.
Needs to be a broad enough umbrella to be important enough at all of our sites.
Well, I don't know. The initiative might be Yes, I agree. I mean, it might be something in the high school, but then the elementary might be able to take advantage of it as well. So,
Right,
you know,
but you have to just have an umbrella-like goal that gives the site the ability to customize it for their population. But it still
Whether it be online
fits.
or brick and mortar.
and they already have that with the World's Best Workforce. They have all their sub
Yeah, I
goals,
haven't
but
read through the whole thing yet.
as a board, you know, what one goal or one strategy, let's say, or what one thing for the next 1 year or 2 or 3 years do we wanna see implemented, is what we're trying to.
And I think what you're getting at is you want something that's district-wide, so that online can feed into it, on-site can feed into it, and when you were talking in the committee, you were focusing much more on-site. And so when you were talking about different building projects, that's just on-site, that's not gonna benefit the online at all, and so there's
But I would
a
argue that
disconnect.
that's not a bad thing. I mean, Schoology, for instance, is just on-site as well. I mean, if we exclude everything that we can't do online, we've excluded a lot.
Well, I don't
Right,
think you're
but-
saying that, I think you're saying just.
I'm just saying it needs to be not too specific a goal that it cuts out. I mean, the sites, because we have all these site goals. If a site is gonna make goals to feed into the World's Best Workforce plan or the district advisory, yes, you're trying to make one and maybe they need to be one, but it needs, I'm not saying it right, it needs to fit into, you're a district level committee.
And I don't think we're gonna change any of what's there for the district, for the World's Best Workforce and all that stuff. This is just a separate, at the board level, what's one of our board goals.
Oh, so this is more of a board strategic.
Yeah, with input from this group, right?
Okay,
Okay. And so if we say, I don't wanna throw anything out, cause I really don't know what we're gonna end up with, but if we say X, Y, Z, if we say Schoology, for instance, we've kind of said, okay, you know, some people had Schoology goals and this or that, and maybe they prioritize their goals differently, but now the whole school knows Schoology is really important. And all the teachers are kind of in line with that, and I'm hoping we kind of come up with something similar with this other group. But not to exclude what's there with the World's Best Workforce and STEAM, because I think it says they're all developing curriculum associated with STEAM, and the elementary is trying to put STEAM into all of their lessons, and, you know, so none of that would stop because of this.
No, I don't think so, it's just what's the,
More to come.
more to come.
I mean, they sound like they're just starting to scratch the surface and there's a lot of
It was a
discussion
good
going on, so
discussion. It was
It's
good.
good. It's good as long as. Okay, anything else? I think that was it for meetings, correct? 3? Maybe we should have 4. No. Nothing else on that?
Are we scheduled to have a meet and confirm meeting this month?
I haven't gotten anything from the teachers yet. They were saying that they think they will have something, and so that was, I think, February, is it the 20th?
I'd have to look, but I think February was the month.
I
We
think it was
didn't
like-
have one in October, and
No.
February is the next one on the
Right.
pipeline, so. I guess just keep us, not that you don't, but I would appreciate more than a day's notice, so I can,
Well,
make
and
sure I
that's,
can build it into my schedule.
I don't wanna schedule a meeting if there's nothing.
Understood?
And we should probably get a negotiation meeting on the board for us 3 to start talking. Is there anybody else on the board?
No, no one else wanted to join the little happy minstrels.
So we should have another Ron's back in country.
Yep, and that's, we're going to be, when we go into closed session, we're going to be talking about, I haven't met with anyone from the bus drivers yet, but we've got the other contracts that have not been ratified yet to discuss.
So we should come up with a date at that time. Try to, anyway, at least us 3 have a conversation. Okay. Anything else on that? Okay. We have a motion to go into closed meeting for negotiation strategy. We'll come back out of close, we'll stay in there.
So
Stand adjourned. Got a motion? Have a second?
Second.
Second by Mimi. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 1 minute break, people, if you don't mind.